Welcome to the Benning Report. Coming up in this edition, this year's Best Warrior competition.
And Basic Rifle Marksmanship gets tougher.
Later, a college graduation, Army style. Welcome to the Benning Report. I'm Melissa Bell.
And I'm Nate Snook with the Fort Benning Public Affairs Office. Thanks for watching. Nothing brings out the best in a soldier than a tough competition.
This year's Best Warrior competition tested participants physically, technically, and mentally.
David Wright brings us a story of who the winners are that will go on to compete at the next level.
The 2014 Maneuver Center of Excellence Best Warrior competition is in the books, and every competitor agreed that they were impressed at how challenging it proved to be. To win, competitors had to demonstrate excellence in all warrior skills.
We basically focus on the fundamentals of shoot, move, communicate, and survive, and so as basic tasks that all soldiers are expected to be able to perform.
The competition started with a PT test, then expanded to include marksmanship, land navigation, urban orienteering, and combatives. The second half of the week-long event included testing medical skills under stress, calling for adjust fire, evacuations, or spot reports, and fielding questions from the board.
It's a very good competition. It kind of gets back to the basics of a lot of things, getting back to the technical parts, but it also tests you physically to extreme amounts.
Winners were named in 4 categories. The Advanced Infantry Training Platoon Sergeant of the Year went to Sergeant First Class Travis Jackson. Soldier of the Year went to Specialist Seth Bill. NCO of the Year is Sergeant First Class Michael McQuality, and the Drill Sergeant of the Year winner is Staff Sergeant Derek Linhart.
Personally, this is probably the biggest achievement I have yet in my military career. I'm ecstatic. I'm so glad that all my training has paid off. You know, I trained really hard for this competition, and it's just a great feeling.
These 4 winners are already stepping up their training as they prepare to go on to the TRADOC level competition in hopes of advancing out of that to the Army-wide competition. They all agree physical conditioning and mental preparedness will be key.
It's good to continually assess yourself and to see how you rate among your peers and be tested.
The Best Warrior of the Year competition also included a mystery event that tested every soldier's will. None were prepared for it, and it stands out as the most memorable event for each of them. However, it must remain a mystery for now, as it may be reused to test future warriors. David Wright, Fort Benning TV.
Ranger School puts forth some of the best trained soldiers in the military, and that even includes soldiers from other nations. Let me introduce you to the first Chilean officer to graduate with this prestigious honor and the lessons he'll take back to his country. Graduation day from Ranger School is an impressive sight with an awe-inspiring display of Ranger skills and the soldiers who have learned them in detail. Among the graduates from Class 614 is First Lieutenant Hernan Oyenguren, the first Chilean officer to graduate from this school.
It's really amazing. It's unbelievable. When I came here, it's a long way, and now I finished it, so I'm happy.
Lieutenant Oyenguren has just completed 61 days of one of the toughest courses a soldier can volunteer for, where only half of its students will graduate.
First week, drop week, is very hard. Every event, every day, you have to pass it. If you don't make it, you are dropped. Physically and psychological stress, and I guess that the first week is harder.
To get through Ranger School, there's a set of principles students must learn and apply. Lieutenant Oyenguren understands the importance of these principles and intends to share them with his country.
Teamwork is the key here. You don't make it if you don't work for the other student. That's the difference. It's a big deal here. You can give your 100%, but it doesn't matter if you gave your 100% because the others have to give their 100% too to make you successful. So it's a teamwork. Absolutely.
Overall, Lieutenant Oyenguren considers himself honored to have been selected to go through this course and hopes the same opportunity will be available to more from his country.
Hopefully next year and or maybe this year we can send more officers, more enlisted soldiers to do this course, because it's a very, very good and beautiful course.
There's not a conflict we've been in where we've not had a partner nation partner with us, and I think anytime we get a chance to have an international student, it just increases that capability that we have, as well as potentially the capability they have when it comes to partnership.
On graduation day, Lieutenant Oyenguren knows that not only does he walk away with his Ranger tab, he walks away with the respect of his Ranger buddies. Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV.
After an improvised explosive device left Sergeant Joseph Mill an amputee, he decided to remain on active duty and continue a path to success. Sarah Tate shares his story of why returning back to civilian life was never an option.
In January of 2012, Sergeant Joseph Mill was just 1 month shy of returning home from his Kandahar, Afghanistan deployment, when he was injured by a dismounted improvised explosive device, losing his right leg. After a year and a half of recovery, this soldier wasn't ready to give it up.
I was injured at 2.5 years in, so I kind of felt a little uncompleted career-wise. I wasn't ready to be a civilian yet. I mean, it just sounded boring.
With a desire to return back to the force, Mill was amongst U.S. Army Sniper Class 0714, training to be amongst some of the Army's top snipers. With a carbon fiber socket and a carbon fiber blade foot, Mill only faced one difficulty during the 7-week course.
Other than the stalking through the brush, because you don't have total control over it. Moving through a brush got a little annoying, and everything kind of wrapped around it and whatnot, but it wasn't too bad. Other than that, I mean, kept up on the runs, kept up on the rucks.
And he kept the motivation to continue forward, never looking back and never asking for favors.
We're all competitors at heart. That's why we do this type of job to begin with. So when you look to your right and you see a guy that has one leg and he's doing everything you're doing, kind of, if you're feeling sorry for yourself, that's the time when you stop feeling sorry for yourself. And I think he provided that extra motivation to everybody else. I think he proves that just because you have a prosthetic doesn't fully limit you as a soldier. You're still a warfighter, you're still fully capable. He can still shoot, move, and communicate, which is what we ask of our warfighters, and he can do that.
Sergeant Joseph Mill.
And he's proved it.
Sarah Tate, Fort Benning TV.
The Army pledges that Gold Star family members will always be a part of the Army family. The 173rd Airborne Brigade upheld this pledge as Gold Star family members were honored at a ceremony that unveiled new names on their monument.
Soldiers, veterans, and family members gathered at the Walk of Honor to pay tribute to 13 fallen sky soldiers at a ceremony that unveiled their names.
Theodore M. Glende.
Also honored at this ceremony were the battle buddies who served with them and the family members who loved them.
I'd like them to look around and realize that they're not alone. That every name on that wall has a family that understands them, and it has a whole lot of other soldiers that are still their family from having served in the Sky Soldiers for over 50 years.
At this ceremony, family members were able to see their soldiers' names on the monument and how their service and sacrifice is honored.
James A. Justice.
For him and the rest to be honored in this way forever for our kids, our grandkids, for generations to come, it takes us back. And we look at the other families and you realize you're not the only one.
This is the end of a deployment and the beginning of a new life for some of the families who lost. Because now the plans and the road they had planned to take now has a big rock on it. And they have to build a new path. And what the Memorial Foundation does is it gives the families the opportunity to join together with people who love them and who are willing to say, I will hold your hand if I have to get you down this new path.
Family who gathered at this ceremony were able to see that they are not alone, that they will always have each other, and they will always be part of the Army family.
It's like having a pair of hands under you. We've had calls from Rangers and 173rd from around the world, and they stay in contact. But biggest of all, most of those stay in contact with our kids. It means a lot to have a supporting, and we get that feeling, and we did today, that for as long as we're here, that the Army, all we have to do is reach out if we need something.
For as long as this monument stands, these 13 names will be displayed, each one with a story and each one with a family that can take pride in knowing the sacrifice of their loved one will always be recognized. Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV.
Coming up next, a new approach makes basic rifle marksmanship just a little bit tougher. The Georgia Tech Research Institute had some high-tech gear on Fort Benning as the Maneuver Battle Lab tested the latest in unmanned aviation technology. I went out to get the details.
Unmanned helicopters may seem like a thing of the future, but on Fort Benning, the future is closer than you think, as the Georgia Tech Research Institute demonstrated the advancements to their unmanned aerial vehicles.
Some of the advantages that we have are being able to actually go longer distance and actually longer flight times actually up in the air. Also, the cameras that we use are actually improving. They give us better capability to see actually on the ground at higher altitudes. And also with the pinpoint accuracy, we can actually get more accurate grids to the location that we're looking at.
Systems tested during this experiment were GPS, lasers, and camera systems that will advance capabilities when it comes to collision avoidance at low altitude, high-speed flight operations in an urban setting, where they must avoid obstacles like buildings, wires, and vegetation.
If you can get a small one in a very tight area, you can get somewhere where you cannot get with a manned helicopter today. And furthermore, you do so without risking the human pilot on there.
Improving soldier capabilities while increasing survivability is an essential aspect of the partnership between the Army and industry, keeping soldiers on the cutting edge of technology. Engineers from GTRI hope one day to make it possible for these unmanned systems to resupply soldiers behind enemy lines. And this is where helicopters come in handy with their hover capabilities without a need for a landing strip.
So we've been doing research in sling loads, so basically carrying a sling load below a helicopter. That's a very common application of a manned helicopter, but it has to be done very gently and flown in a very conservative way. And we're working on guidance systems to allow them to the helicopter to be flown much more aggressively with a sling load.
As improvements progress in the evolution of unmanned aviation, Georgia Tech engineers will continue to work with the Fort Benning Maneuver Battle Lab to assess and further develop these capabilities. Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV.
Developing adaptive leaders is essential in a world of asymmetric threats. A new methodology designed to accomplish this has been fully implemented throughout the ARTB course. David Wright chronicles the change.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
It's week 2 for these students in the Infantry Basic Officer Leader course, and today they are going through their culminating exercise for Basic Rifle Marksmanship. But this is no simple qualification.
Now, typically, Basic Rifle Marksmanship Week, the culminating event, is a qualification range. Recently, we've come back and looked at our program of instruction, our POI, and determined that the outcome of the week should be a little bit more than just a basic rifle qualification.
Adaptive Soldier Leader Training and Education, or ASLTE, is a new outcome-based methodology that IBOLC has been introducing this year to all phases of its training. This is the first time C Company has used ASLTE in the planning stages, and the result is a more rigorous program. Instead of a simple marksmanship qualification, it is now a combat field fire exercise.
We're kind of shifting from how we've been doing business typically in the past, where training events are defined by your tasks, your conditions, your standards. What our battalion's done is we've brought in individuals from the AWG, the Asymmetric Warfare Group, and other outside agencies to kind of train us up on implementing this ASLTE methodology throughout IBOLC.
The desired outcome of this exercise is to equip soldiers with the capability to employ their weapon systems in a combat scenario. This means adding stress and random elements.
He's potentially going in shock. What are we doing?
The soldiers have to apply all the fundamentals on their own because there's never a scenario, there's never a training event, and there's never a real-world event where things are static and things are never changing and you just do what you're told.
Carrying water supply and casualties creates physical stress, resulting in an increased heart rate. Next, it's calisthenics, while First Sergeant Mackey tests their knowledge on key points.
Push-up! Guard position move!
From there, it's straight to the firing line. Random target patterns, multiple firing positions, magazine changes, and correcting malfunctions all add to the rigor of the exercise and force soldiers to apply all the skills they have learned.
So we're working towards every training event using the ASLTE methodology to really build those 21st century soldier competencies and arrive at our predetermined outcomes.
Captain Dot says they've always been great at teaching skills, but now the focus is on training adaptive leaders, and that's exactly what ASLTE is all about. David Wright, Fort Benning TV.
After the break, colors are passed at units across Fort Benning, but first, Fort Benning's Picture This.
Summertime means change of command season for many Fort Benning units. Let's take a look at some of the ceremonies that took place and introduce you to their new commanders taking charge.
Colonel David Fivecoat assumed command of the Airborne and Ranger Training Brigade during a recent ceremony at the Ranger Demonstration Area on Hurley Hill. Colonel Fivecoat is a West Point graduate with 21 years of military service. Some of the awards and decorations he has received in his career include the Valorous Unit Award, 4 Bronze Star medals, and the Army Commendation Medal with V-Device.
You can't beat a job where you get to shape the next generation of paratroopers and Rangers for the Army.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit welcomed their 21st commander, Lieutenant Colonel Brett Tecklenburg. Lieutenant Colonel Tecklenburg comes to the AMU from the Joint Special Operations Command, where he served as the branch chief, division chief, and operations planner. He says he is honored to serve in this organization with these phenomenal men and women.
We've got skilled marksmen that win nationally and internationally, and it's those skills that they bring back to the Army to improve small arms lethality in the Army.
And the 316th Cavalry Brigade greeted their new commander, Colonel William Thigpen, on Brave Rifles Field in Harmony Church. Most recently, Colonel Thigpen graduated from the National War College at Fort Leslie McNair in Washington, D.C., and served at the Pentagon as the aide-de-camp to the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army.
I'm extremely humbled and grateful for this opportunity and look forward to serving with the fine soldiers, Army civilians assigned to the Destroyer Brigade.
And that's your Fort Benning Roundup. Katie Cook, Fort Benning TV.
Coming up next, a first-of-its-kind graduation ceremony.
Graduation is a huge milestone for any college graduate. Sarah Tate takes us to Fort Benning's first ever post-wide graduation ceremony and shares why it's so unique.
Educational goals in the military can be quite difficult, but with hard work and determination, it can be done. In just a few hours, I and nearly 90 other Fort Benning graduates will walk this stage to receive associates, bachelor's, and master's degrees.
Fort Benning held its first ever post-wide graduation ceremony, giving service members, family members, retirees, and civilian employees an opportunity to walk across the stage
Jasmine L. Brewington
in front of family, friends, and colleagues, signifying their academic achievements. With a diverse range of education programs such as distant learning, many graduates are not afforded the opportunity to attend ceremonies, making this unique occasion one to celebrate.
The graduation is such a special moment that we would not want to miss this. So it's very important to support the students and the families that were part of this educational journey for the students.
A journey that took these graduates a total of 214 years to complete. Faced with obstacles such as deployments, full-time jobs, and raising families, these graduates continue to pursue their goals regardless of their situations.
I think the students and the families will remember that forever. And of course, the graduation is very important for the graduates, very meaningful, but also for the families. They see their loved ones, children see their parents graduate, and with that, they set a really great example for the children and the family too.
For some, the ceremony signified the accomplishment of a lifetime goal, carrying the desire to motivate others to begin the journey.
Start and don't quit. Even if you take one class per semester, just continue doing it.
And with hard work and determination, one class will transform into a stage with success at the end of your walk. Sarah Tate, Fort Benning TV.
To see more of that graduation, visit fortbenningphotos.com.
It really is good to see that they have a place to walk and celebrate their achievements.
Once again, big congratulations to all of our Fort Benning graduates.
That'll bring this edition of the Benning Report to an end.
But you can watch these stories and others on youtube.com/BenningTV or at benning.army.mil.
And you can also like us on Facebook.
From the Public Affairs Office, thanks for watching.